स्टडी IQ IAS, अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।
Hello students, welcome to StudyIQ's initiative, the podcast. I am your host Dipansh Moorjani. In today's episode of the podcast, we are going to discuss presiding officer of Loksabha, that is speaker, in detail. Sir, first things first, can you give us a brief account of historical background of the post of Speaker of Lok Sabha and Deputy Speaker?
Article 93 of Indian Constitution mentions the office of Speaker of Lok Sabha, where each House of Parliament has its own presiding officers. There is a Speaker and Deputy Speaker for the Lok Sabha. The institutions of Speaker and Deputy Speaker originated in India in 1921 under the provisions of the Government of India Act 1919, also known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. In 1921, Frederick White and Sachidanand Sinha were appointed by the Governor General of India as the first Speaker and the first Deputy Speaker, respectively, of the Central Legislative Assembly. At that time, the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker were called the President and the Deputy President, respectively, and same nomenclature continued till 1947. In 1925, Vittal Bhai J. Patel became the first Indian and the first elected Speaker of Central Legislative Assembly. The Government of India Act 1935 changed the nomenclatures of President and Deputy President of the Central Legislative Assembly to the Speaker and Deputy Speaker, respectively. In the context of speakers, G.V. Malvankar and A. Iyengar had the distinction of being the first Speaker and the first Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha. G.V. Malvankar also held the post of Speaker in the Constituent Assembly as well as the provincial parliaments.
Sir, can you throw some light on the provisions relating to election and tenure of Speaker of Lok Sabha?
The Speaker is elected by the Lok Sabha from amongst its members. The date for the election of the Speaker is fixed by the President. Whenever the office of Speaker falls vacant, the Lok Sabha elects another member to fill the vacancy for it. Usually, the Speaker remains in office during the life of the Lok Sabha. However, he has to vacate his office earlier in any of the following three cases. Number 1, if the Speaker ceases to be member of Lok Sabha, if he resigns by writing to the Deputy Speaker, if Speaker is removed by any resolution in Lok Sabha.
Sir, can you walk us through a journey on removal of Speaker of Lok Sabha?
Resolution for removal must be passed by a majority of all of them members from Lok Sabha, which is absolute majority. A resolution for removal can be moved only after giving 14 days advance notice. When a resolution for the removal of Speaker is under consideration of the House, he cannot preside at the sitting of the House, though he may be present in the House. However, Speaker can speak and take part in proceedings of the House at such a time and vote in the first instance, but not casting vote. Even though one thing is to be noted that whenever the Lok Sabha is dissolved, the Speaker does not vacate his office and he still continues till the newly elected Lok Sabha meets for the first time.
Sir, now we are curious to understand power and functions of Speaker.
Primary responsibility of Speaker is to maintain order and decorum in the House of conducting its business and regulating its proceedings. He has final power in this regard. However, it is very important to note that within the House, Speaker is final interpreter of provisions under Constitution of India, number 2, rules and procedures and conduct of business of Lok Sabha, and number 3, parliamentary precedents. However, the Speaker exercises a casting vote in the case of tie, but he cannot vote at the first instance. It is purpose to resolve a deadlock. The Speaker adjourns the House or suspends the meeting in the absence of quorum. The quorum basically is 1/10 of the total strength of the House. Speaker presides over a joint sitting under Article 108 in Indian Constitution. This sitting is summoned by the President, so settle a deadlock between the two houses on a bill. However, there is one thing to be remembered, that money bill and constitutional amendment bill. For these two bills, if any deadlock happens, the joint sitting provisions are not available for these two conditions. Speaker also decides whether a bill is a money bill or not, and his decision on this question is final. He endorses on the bill his certificate that it is a money bill. Speaker also adjudicates the questions of disqualification of member of Lok Sabha arising on the ground of defection under the provision of 10th schedule. Speaker acts as the ex officio chairman of Indian Parliamentary Group, which is a link between Parliament of India and the various parliaments across the world. Speaker also acts as the ex officio chairman of Conference of Presiding Officers of Legislative Bodies in the country. Speaker also appoints the chairman of all the parliamentary committees of the Lok Sabha and supervises their functioning too. Speaker is the chairman of three important committees. Number 1, Business Advisory Committee. Number 2, Rules Committee. And number 3, General Purpose Committee in Parliament.
Sir, the institution of Speaker also exists in Britain. So what is the difference between Indian system and the Britain system?
The institution of Speaker in Britain is strictly a non-party man. There is a convention that the Speaker has to resign from his political party and remain politically neutral as soon as he or she assumes the office of Speaker in Britain. However, this system is not present in India. This healthy convention is not fully established in where the Speaker does not resign from the membership of his party on his election to the exalted office.
Sir, can you give us an account on special provisions of Indian Speaker as compared to other countries?
Speaker is provided with a security of tenure. Speaker can be removed only by a resolution passed by Lok Sabha by an absolute majority, a majority of all the then members of the House. This motion of removal can be considered and discussed only when it has the support of at least 50 members. The Speaker has the power of casting vote in the event of a tie during the process of voting on any resolution or motion in Parliament. Speaker cannot vote in the first instance therefore.
Sir, whenever we see any kind of disruption in Parliament, then institution of Speaker is always at the helm of affairs. So can you elucidate on issues which are related to the office of Speaker of Lok Sabha?
The office of Speaker pertains to structural issues regarding appointment and his tenure in office. The Speaker is chosen from the majority party and the Deputy Speaker from the opposition side as a convention. No convention of Speaker foregoing their political party is one of the major issues in the office of Speaker. This is because the Speaker's re-election to the House is not secure as he is a non-party member in Britain. However, this practice is not followed in India. Indian speakers have held ministerial positions immediately before and after their speaker's term without any cooling off period for the office. However, the next challenge is that challenge of coalitions. Time available to each party to represent its interest during discussions is reduced. There has been a decrease in the number of annual sittings of Parliament, problem aggravated by the repeated disruptions in the Parliament due to not receiving proper time for raising the concern of any member. Rise in the number of political parties and varied political interest has made it harder for the Speaker to find consensus between members on use of disciplinary powers. The next issue of Office of Speaker is that unparliamentary conduct. Members seek to use unparliamentary means such as disruptions, etc. for attaining the indulgence of the Speaker. However, the role of Speaker in anti-defection law is also contentious. Scope for Speaker to exercise discretion, which is often used by the ruling party to disqualify dissent. For example, what happened in Goa, Arunachal Pradesh, Karnataka Assembly was an example how speaker, when acts in discretion, can create a friction between speaker and elected members through anti-defection law. It is because the time frame to decide the disqualification by speaker is not fixed. The next important issue in the office of speaker is determination of money bill. There have been several bills passed by subverting the due process subverting a due process of normal bill as money bill. For example, Aadhaar bill was passed as money bill, though it may not have met the strict criteria laid out in the constitution.
Sir, after understanding these issues, we are curious to understand the solutions or what are the way forwards that we can include in our mains answer writing as well.
Adjudicatory role of speaker under anti-defection law should be given to the election commission or any neutral body outside the legislature. The British model of non-party member as a speaker should be followed because this can be a best practice to be followed. The next solution can be a convention should be established to re-elect the speaker without contest. In the debates and during question hour, attempts should be made to not only give members time as per party strength, however, speaker should also accommodate members who wish to convey different grievances or views not depending on the strength of their political party. The next solution can be that increasing transparency in speaker's decision-making process, which will eventually increase the trust between speaker and members. For instance, decisions by speaker should be made available to the public. The next important solution can be there can be a no political appointment of the speaker post-retirement immediately. There must be a cooling off period after his retirement or end of the term of the post of speaker. This will ensure the political neutrality and non-favoritism towards the office of speaker.
Sir, thank you for your explanations. Dear listeners, finally it is time to pull the strings down on this episode of the podcast. But you all don't have to worry because we will be back very soon with another topic. So stay connected with StudyIQ and keep studying. You can listen to all the episodes of the podcast on various audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Hubhopper, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Kuku FM, etc. Links are pinned in the comment section below. Thank you.